Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and welcome to my review of Terror on the Prairie, the new Gina Carano led movie that is an exclusive to the Daily Wire. Now, if you happen to not be a kind of fringe right individual, you may not know much about this particular property because it is a bit mired in controversy based upon Gina Carano's, social media posts that ended up getting her let go from her contract over there at Disney. And I know people out there are going to say, but she didn't do anything wrong. Gina didn't do anything wrong. Her posts aside, to be fair, I never thought she should have been fired. I've been very open about that. But when you just repost a meme without adding your own flavor, flair, or opinion to it, it kind of comes across like you co-sign it. And when it's about like political ideology in current day and age being compared to the plight of the Jews in World War II, Poland may not be like the smartest move out there. But you know what? I digress. But after that whole controversy happened, right, Gina jumped on the Daily Wire bandwagon. They offered her a few movies that they had been financing, producer deal. I think she's doing 3 movies with them. And this first one happened to be Terror on the Prairie, which the name is not very good. The movie's okay. I'm just going to start off by saying the movie is okay for like a one-time watch, but the name doesn't really roll off the tongue. The concept of it effectively is like, think of The Strangers, okay, meets a little bit of Home Alone. In fact, her name is Hattie McAllister. Just let that one sink in for a second. If you ever want to think this movie's like, how do we make a Western that's like Home Alone, but not Home Alone, but we named the main character McAllister, who's fighting off, insurgents who are trying to lay siege to her property. It just a little on, now that I think about it, it's a little on the nose. I didn't quite make it, put it together myself, but really, anyway, I digress. I'm trying to be a little funny here. But the movie is very simple. Okay. She is a woman on the frontier, 12 years post the Civil War. Her husband is a former Confederate troop. Her son is, little boy growing up. She's got a newborn baby that she nurses, and she kind of hates her life. She kind of hates her life on the prairie, doesn't want to stay there, wants to go back to Missouri, back to her parents to work, in civilized society, so to speak. But her husband, believe it or not, the guy's really understanding. You know what I mean? He gets it. He's like, yeah, this is kind of a hard life. If you want to go back and visit your family, that's cool. I'll go get a job to pay for you to go back home, and she's like, I just want to leave. I just want to leave this all behind, And then he goes off to town to go and look for work, So she's there with the kid. All of a sudden, these gang members show up. We met them at the beginning of the movie. They scalped a guy after a very slow and monotonous foot chase where the guy was on foot and then everyone else is on horseback. And it literally, like, there's so much time in this movie where there's no one talking, like, especially the first 20 minutes of the movie. When I say that Gina Carano probably had fewer than 15 lines of dialogue during the first 20 minutes of this movie, I am not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating at all. I thought she was going to have fewer lines of dialogue than Rihanna in Battleship from 2012. But no, she finally gets the chance to speak once the husband goes away. But in the meantime, she's approached by these men. She views them as strangers, but she's like open, like, hey, let me feed you guys. Here's some water. Come on in and hang out. The boys are kind of bonding with the men, and you're waiting for shit to kind of go south, right? Well, ultimately, she ends up finding the scalps of the guy from the beginning of the movie, as well as other people, indicating that there's some dudes out there that are missing their hair, but we don't quite know why exactly. So she kicks them all out of the house and then takes their guns, but they return with their rifles and other pistols and engage in this Home Alone siege on the McAllister home. Again, I can't quite now that I figured that out, I cannot quite get away from that. And the whole time, like, it's just, they're just shooting at each other, pew, 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 pew. And no one can hit shit. Like, there's even a line in the movie where they're like, man, she can't shoot at all. But these guys are like trained killers. These guys are soldiers who also cannot hit a target. You know, she's literally at one point, she's just pointing the gun out the window and like they could easily take a shot. But I mean, well, they're not, because as we find out, they want to bait her husband because, you know, he had been involved in the bad guy, his daughter being killed during the war. And so he wanted to find all the men responsible for the death of his daughter, get his father's vengeance. And that actually was kind of a cool storyline that I thought about it, you know, like a part of me was thinking like the husband was going to be like part of this guy's crew and like he fucked him over or something like that, or like he whatever. And, you know, that was this guy getting his revenge on the old crew members or something along those lines. When no, it really was like they were trying to kill this bad guy, but they ended up killing his daughter. Now that dude has spent 12 years trying to get revenge. And okay, like that was actually kind of a cool plot point for the film, I'll fully admit. But how they got there just took forever. They stretched it out. No one could really shoot a gun. The young boy gets a shot off accidentally and like almost takes off this guy's arm, and then they have to cauterize it with the fire. That was kind of cool. But there's just so much stuff there that was just wasted time. Like the movie's an hour and 47 minutes. You could have easily, chipped away at 17, 18 minutes of this movie and not lost any of the impact and made it feel like it actually like moved a little faster. During the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was pretty bored because I'm just like, okay, I get it. You're establishing her life. You're establishing that she hates it. She just kind of has the same routine. I get all this. Get to the point. But when they finally do start getting the ball rolling, you know, really what it is like you have Gina Carano as the star of this movie. This is a vehicle for her. She is the main draw. Even like the marketing is like the uncancellation of Gina Carano. But really, Nick Searcy, Searcy, I think is his name. He's the actor in the movie. He's the only good actor in the movie. But this guy who is like an avowed conservative, he's a massive Republican, but he's a good actor. He's a good character actor. I liked him on Justified. He was the chief on there, or the director, whatever he was, but he was good on Justified, and he really kind of brought his energy to this. And I thought he was pretty dope in throughout the whole movie. I liked when he was on the screen because at least there was someone there who could act, right? Because like Gina Carano was literally just like told to not talk for scenes. There's one scene in particular where like the bad guy and her are talking, and she's pointing at the shotgun at him through a window. And I'm not even kidding you. The gun and her hand are blocking her mouth. And you can see that it's not moving. But she's talking because they ADR'd her dialogue in order to probably have it emote in some way that actually is decent. It was pretty noticeable. Like Gina I have no issue with Gina Carano as a person. I hear she's very nice. But a great actor she is not. And this was meant to be kind of her time to shine, but a lot of it, she just has this really like, not confused, but like constipated look in her face, which I know is meant to convey she's like taking in her surroundings and she's trying to like figure it all out. I get that, but it just looks like she's just uninterested. You know, like even in the beginning of the movie, a couple Native Americans show up. One of them is like, it's like a chief and his daughter is injured. She sews the daughter back together. She is covered in blood. They're all very thankful. They give her a knife that comes into play later. And she's just sitting there. She's like, oh, okay. You know, like, I don't know what to say and whatever. And then it's just, again, so weird. Some of the choices for this are so weird. Ultimately, like, they kind of like get out of there. Like, you know, she gets out of there with the son and the baby and they're trying to get to this river. And it's like the slowest chase scene I've ever seen in a movie. Like, I know they're trying to cross the river, but the way they shot it was that they're just like crossing the screen. And so you just see her and the boy crossing. And then you see like the other guys behind them and they're just going at like a snail's pace. You know, it was so weird to look at. It just made like no sense. Then, of course, like the husband comes back, you know, after not being able to find work. And then he gets propositioned by a hooker who, by the way, I think it was Samarie, whatever, Armstrong, I think is the actress's name. And she's another one who was canceled for some comments she had made online. So this movie is kind of like canceled the movie, so to speak. But it just makes sense because they're, they're getting these actors at probably a pretty discounted penny. I'm sure the movie was shot relatively quickly. Like I said, the vast majority of this movie had no dialogue. And again, that was probably done for like impact, but I just feel like it kind of fell apart. And then like, the husband shows up and he's like, it was so weird because like they've got Gina Carano. She is like, they got her on the ground and they're, the bad guy's monologuing and everything. And then here comes the husband and like, you hear the footsteps, that he's coming. They stop and they look kind of like they know that he's coming. And then he just leaps off of like the hillside and like tackles a guy, then pulls out the gun and they get into like a Mexican standoff situation. And then of course he gives himself up. To save his family. And then they go back to the house, they string him up, and they basically just like, they do this mock trial. And then Gina Carano's like, before they scalp him, she's like, I'll do whatever you want. And like, I'll do anything. And then immediately the bad guy's like, so all three of us, like you'll do all three of us of your own free will, and she's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then you're like, oh, okay. Like you immediately went to like, that. I mean, I'm sure that's where it was going to go naturally, but he just immediately went to that. The one guy takes her in. She kills him pretty violently. She keeps stabbing him repeatedly, but you can tell she keeps stabbing him in like the arm, right? That kind of stage stabbing where it's like, it looks real, but it's just not, and she keeps stabbing him. And like no blood, like no real sound. Like there's some weird ADR mixing in the movie. I noticed like sometimes some of like the dialogue didn't really sound great. Even Gina herself, like you could tell like she had turned away from the microphone and she talked and it's just softer. And it's like they didn't even try to fix it in ADR. It makes no sense, but whatever. And then so then she goes and she gets into a firefight. She saves her husband, kills the bad guy. Husband kills the last guy. House burns down. And then it just kind of fast forwards, I don't know, maybe like a month or something like that. And they're back out there and they're rebuilding the house or building the barn or whatever. And then the movie ends. Like, that's it. It's like a long exposition. Gets through everything. Takes his time to get there. Some cool shootout moments, a lot of good sound design for that. Some good violence, right? And then it's over. They stayed on the prairie. Obviously, that's kind of like what her character comes to in the end is, oh, yeah, no. I want to live out here with my family. I want to be out here with my family. That's where I want to be. So that's what they do. And that's Terror on the Prairie. I think it's like the second one of the Daily Wire's like original films. This is like the first one that they've, I think, made underneath their banner that they didn't like purchase previously. Like the Run, Hide, Fight came from another guy that they just purchased it and threw the Daily Wire logo on. I mean, Netflix does the same thing. So like, I'm not criticizing. But again, look, it's like, this is like a one-time watch. If you like Westerns, you'll probably be bored. There's not much here that's like worth the time investment. It's not that I was bored watching the movie. It's just that I was looking for the point. And I think the controversy surrounding its making and how Gina Carano became involved and who has been promoting this movie, because it's got like an 88%, audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which no. But it's worth it's worth a watch if you have a Daily Wire subscription, or you're going to find this in the bargain bin in no time flat. It might end up even going to Netflix down the road. Right? Because they're going to want to find a way to expand outward because it's not going to have the impact that they want. You have to remember, guys, that they were offering coupon code GINA for 25% off of a Daily Wire subscription when this whole thing went down last year. Before the movie even went into production, they were offering this 25% off coupon code for Gina. And we were making fun of that quite a bit because it was so stupid. But this is the first output. She's got a couple movies she's working on with them. I'll check them out. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's nowhere near the best thing I've ever seen. It's pretty middle of the road. And if you might like it. So if you have seen it, I want to know your thoughts on it. If you haven't seen it and you want to see it, let me know. And if you have no interest in it and you're just like, Matt, you wasted an hour and 47 minutes of your damn life, also let me know. And in the meantime, if there's anything else you want me to review, I do want to do more of that here on the channel. So let me know any movies out there that you think I might like, or you'd just like to see me rewatch in order to give you guys my opinion on. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys later.